Hey there, friends, and welcome back. This is episode 13 of Who the Heck Did I Marry? So, on the last episode, I was telling you about the issues that Ken was having about potential credit card theft. So, a friend of his had loaned him his Discover card to use, we'll call his friend Alan. Alan had given Ken a credit card, Discover card, to use to help spend money all the way to get him back to Michigan to live with his dad. Ken tells me that, of course, he was going to pay it all back. That was the intention. That was the plan. He tried to. He made a couple of payments, which I would assume could be proven through checking accounts, cash checks. So here we are. Now, DUI stuff all figured out, all satisfied. Now all of a sudden we're dealing with this. So parents, get him a lawyer. I wonder truly how many lawyers his parents have paid for over the years. It would be interesting to know what that number was. But parents pay for him to get an attorney, and the attorney does all the work, all the research, all the things, and basically Ken has to go to court and try to defend himself in the situation. Attorney is very concerned because previously Ken had had an issue when he lived back in Michigan and was in college, kind of similarly related to what I'm going to call identity theft. So, again, the way I remember the story was that Ken was 21. Ken had friends who were not 21, and said not 21-year-old friends wanted to buy liquor. So Ken loaned them his driver's license so that said underagers could buy alcohol. It was caught that they had his ID, and it was found that he allowed them to do that, aiding in either the identity theft or the illegal purchase of alcohol. I'm not exactly sure where it all went, but I know that I was told that in Ken's mind, the judge wanted to make an example of him and his friends, so had really kind of gone to the extreme of noting their record for what had happened and what type of fraud was committed. So, current day situation, the current attorney is really concerned that because there is this identity driver's license issue that had happened 15 years prior, that now there's going to be a pattern with this credit card theft situation. Of course, Alan, has told the courts, has made the police report that he did not give him permission to take the card. The card was sitting on his desk in his apartment with access to every other bit of Alan's personal information that could have got the card activated. Ken must have impersonated Alan on the phone to get the card activated, whatever else was needed to do. It wasn't until Alan started getting bills in the mail that he realized that the card had been activated, that through chain of events and figuring things out, that Ken had the card in Michigan and had spent all the money to do this. So again, what is the truth of the story? I don't know. But bottom line, Ken is not a legal user of that card. The credit was not given to Ken. It was given to Alan. So no matter what agreement was or was not made, no matter if it was because Alan was mad at Ken that he called the cops and reported his card stolen, however it went down, Ken was wrong. So again, we're in a situation where we have to figure something out. It was suggested by Ken's attorney that he take some form of a plea agreement, because credit card theft minimum, I believe, and things could have changed. This was, again, 20 years ago. Minimum was 5 years in prison for credit card theft, maximum 10. And I'm sitting here going, I'm engaged to a guy who could be going to prison for 5 years. Long story short, he takes the plea agreement. They agree that he does not have to go to jail at all. he needs to pay all the money back. He needs to pay fines, fees, whatever that is, and he's going to be put on probation for 2 years. And as long as he has no further offenses in those 2 years, the whole thing would be over. This was felony credit card theft because the dollar amount was high enough that it was considered felony credit card theft. But the agreement was made that when after 5 years, okay, so 2 years probation, after 5 years, if there were no further instances, he could then petition the courts to have his felony lowered to a misdemeanor, okay? So he accepts this plea, and we are now in a situation where I'm marrying a man who's on probation. We had to get permission to leave the country to go on our honeymoon. He had to check in with the officer weekly. We had random home visits. But the good news is that this part of the story ends fairly quickly because 6 months with no problems and good behavior, and I don't know how in Arizona the system goes, but he was allowed to stop the probation visits and everything else. And his dad, at the day of everything being done in court, his dad swipes the credit card, pays off all his fees. His dad paid for the attorney. So all we had to pay in the meantime was whatever fees he had to pay for being on probation, for like checking in with your probation officers. If I know there were fees having to go on with that. But aside from that, we were done. The biggest problem though is that he is now unemployed because he lost the job at the 4-wheel parts place. He now has felony credit card theft on his record, and his job, his background, his history is in finance and accounting. Run a background check on that. Felony credit card theft shows up. What business wants to put you in their accounting office? Okay. So 6 months go by and we're planning a wedding. He's looking for a job. We're trying to get all this stuff done and checked off the box. Our wedding was in September. And in July, he gets contacted, late June of 2005, he gets contacted by a recruiter. So previously, his experience had been in the car industry, and Ken gets reached out to by a recruiter who places people in the car industry. So he gets offered a job through resumes and interviews and all these things. He gets offered a job to be an assistant controller at a car dealership in Cottonwood, Arizona. So if you know the state, you know where things are, you know where Sedona is, and you know where Prescott is. Okay, both of those are about a 2-hour drive north from the Phoenix area. Okay, Cottonwood is about halfway between Sedona and Prescott. So you there's 2 ways to get to Sedona. You can either just get it off the 17, or you go up through the Verde Valley, which is through Cottonwood near Jerome. So he gets offered a job up there for great money, for an excellent price, and excellent wage compared to what he had been making recently. They were willing to give him a chance. He was open about his situation. The probation at this point was over. He was good to go. So we were good to proceed with this job. The only problem is we had to decide, we're about to get married. Do we want to live 2 hours away from our family, from our, me, I had lived in Mesa, Arizona my entire life. Is this something we wanted to do? And we had decided that the opportunity was too good. We were going to start out our life. It would kind of give us some separation from the adults in our life, give us a chance to start our marriage and kind of be independent. So we decided that he should get the job. So he started the job in July. We needed to move up there, find a way. I needed to find a job, and we were planning a wedding. We'll talk more about that on the next episode.